What was the worst thing that you said/did while being angry? Comment below what you thought about the last Redditor's actions. It would be interesting to hear what humans, I mean, what other people think of that one. My mother's ex-husband and I had a really volatile relationship. He was mentally and emotionally abusive and my mom was an alcoholic. There was one day where things got extremely bad. Both my mom and her ex-husband were drinking. All I did was walk in the door and that's when it all started. I was told I had no friends. I was told my family didn't care about me and that if I disappeared it would be a good break. I was disappointing. I was told that they wished I were dead. I kept trying to tell them to leave me alone. I tried hiding in my room too, but they followed me. At one point I finally became so enraged at them, I flipped my bed over, not just the mattress, I'm talking bed frame and all, because I kept a knife under my bed and then chased them out with a knife and told them I would kill them and not to go to sleep. Yeah. That was fun to explain to the cops. I was in a mental hospital, and while I was having a family meeting to discuss when I could be discharged, my stepmother, who legally wasn't even my stepmother, since she and my father never married, started taking charge and saying I couldn't go live with my sister. When I asked her why, she yelled at me and kept yelling, "No. Nothing else, just no." So I got up and yelled in her face, "You have no legal rights over me, so shut the duck up." This woman had raised me since I was 3 years old. At the time of that event I was 17, almost 18. I regret it because she had always taken the place as my mom and given me all the love and care a mom should give her daughter, since my mother wasn't always in my life. Me saying what I said really hurt her, and I don't think she's ever been that hurt over anything I've said or done since. When I was 3 years old, my mother died from cancer. This will be relevant later in the story. So anyway, I started at a new school where loads of people knew me and they all had big mouths. Obviously, I assumed they told everyone about my mum, but boy was I wrong. A boy was in my drama class, kind of new to the school. I overheard him making fun of people dying of breast cancer, so I assumed he was talking about me because that's just how I am. So in my drama class, it's like a dance studio, so there's that huge mirror and that pole. I went over to him there and shoved him onto the glass and he broke 2 of his ribs on the pole and then hit the glass. I later found out it was not about me, but he still deserves it. TLDR, I broke a boy's ribs and hit his head on glass for making fun of cancer. Context: 18-year-old male, just out of high school. Saw a dude in year 10th, let's say his name was Aaron, who seemed pretty lonely. Later found out he only ever hung out with his cousin and a primary school friend at school. So, I decided, why not try and help this guy join my friend group? Fast forward to year 12, he seems to have integrated pretty well, but I get the feeling he's still relatively distant. So I make the effort to let him know he is included, and since I shared a few classes with him, I supported him in those too, since he struggled in his studies. Exams come and go, and I notice he hardly studies/hardly hangs out with my friend group on Discord anymore. Most of us are active daily and almost all active every other day, unless they have a reason, so I try talking to him. But he effectively ghosts me, and I hardly ever see him on. He doesn't get the result he wants from exams, so I'm now concerned for him as he seems to be growing more and more distant. After multiple failed attempts at communication, I noticed he was playing one of our mutual games. I messaged him when he finished, asking if he was up for a game, and he responds with, "You know you can adapt to being alone, right?" To be clear, he had been effectively ghosting me prior to this incident. So this came as a major shock to me, as I had assumed we were friends, which such a response would not indicate. To put a long story short, he also ghosted me on a Discord, causing me to be irritated at another guy, let's call him Tony. So I attempt to ask Aaron, what's your problem, considering that I was the one who had tried so hard to make him feel included. He refuses to answer on DM, so, as a last resort, I confront him on a public chat. At this point I was beyond pissed and was saying ridiculous things for shock factor basically, especially when Aaron responded to "what's your problem" with "I don't have to respond to you, and you can feel free to be pissed about it." Now, before I go on, I will say that when I have a temper, I do extremely stupid and crazy things, for instance ghosting my friends for a few days because they said something I perceived as annoying to me while I was pissed. However, Tony then decides it's a good idea to butt into our conversation with, "BTW, why did you get pissed at me, HM? I don't think you can talk about bad communication. I'm sure you all know that is whataboutism." So at this point I have snapped. In my eyes, Tony is trying to push me over the edge. So I respond in kind, with the knowledge that he is insecure about final exam results, by saying, "Can you though? Does your final exam score really show you communicating well with your examiners?" And TLDR, because a lot of other shit added up to this statement too. I knocked all of my friendships because one friend ghosted me and another decided it was a good idea to piss me off while I was confronting the first one. And no, I do not give a single duck about high school final exam scores. Sorry for the long post, I had to get this off my chest. I'm only mean to people when they are mean to me. This dumb bitch was just pissing everyone off in high school. There was the popular girl, Nikki. Always so fake nice and this and that. You know the type. One day she starts picking on the autistic kid in our choir. Very nice guy. Very quiet, shy, but goddamn he had a voice that resembled Sinatra. She starts saying things like, "Why is this guy here? He doesn't contribute," and just rocks back and forth in his chair like some retard. This sent me into a red-faced rage on the inside, but I kept calm. Without missing a beat, I turned around, looked her in the eye and said, "Man, now I know why your brother killed himself." She immediately burst into tears and ran out of the room. Not a single person gave me shit for it, because they know she deserved it, but one person did say that was a little far. Which I'm cool with. I have zero regrets saying it. Punt deserved it. Never heard a peep from her the rest of the year in that class. My ex-wife and I were going through a bad divorce. We have a son, who was 2 at the time. She wasn't satisfied, and I was having my own issues in life I had to fix. We ran into each other at an event. I had our son with me. He wanted to play with her, but she wanted to do other things. She was with a guy, and I heard him say, "Damn, I didn't know she had a kid, I'm out." She suffers from PMDD and BPD and most likely PTSD as a result of an abusive father. This guy leaving was the first trigger. Now being forced to spend time with me on her night off of work and custodial time was strike 2. We are walking downtown. She is pushing the stroller with our son in it by his request, and I can tell she's about to explode. I put my hand on her shoulder and say everything is going to be okay, etc. She gets violent and pushes my hand out of the way and says never touch me, and in the process she shoves our son down the street in his stroller. I'm forced to run and grab it. She begins to run in the opposite direction while crying. Julian soon realizes that his mom isn't there anymore and begins to get very upset. Very upset. He cried for around 2 hours using every language skill he'd learned to express how upset he is. Wants mama, mommy come back, I wanna go mommy house, etc. While I was upset I texted her that she was a bad person. I usually handle myself well under pressure or keep emotionally stable, but this one was too much. Since then we've gotten back in touch and have talked a lot about that night. We've talked about the divorce, our son, our futures. We're on good terms and make time for Parents' Day with our son. We're almost friends again. I really hurt her then, and even if what she did was wrong, she's not a bad person, and I'm not a judge. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. I've texted absolutely awful stuff to a girl I considered my best friend. I was depressed, emotionally unstable and secretly in love with her, but it turned sour, and I couldn't stand being around her anymore, and I got really cold, sarcastic and passive aggressive with her. One peak time was me not replying to her for weeks, while she kept on texting me, in good faith. She still very much cared about me and missed me. Then I got high on MDMA and texted her out of nowhere with very long and very heartfelt messages telling her how much I loved her and how much I'm sorry. Shockingly, she was not mad at me at all. She was extremely happy that I was talking to her again, and we got both very emotional. But then the come down came, and I felt like shit. I started being negative, cold and sarcastic again, and I told her that we're not really even friends anymore, and that I kind of never wanted to talk to her again, and anyway that it was all whatever, because she only texts me when she's high and happy. It broke her heart. Then I disappeared for weeks again. Rinse and repeat similar situations for months. TLDR, I was that toxic friend. She eventually forgave me, and we've mended things, but I will never forgive myself for being an asshole, and for abandoning her like that. Broke up with a live-in girlfriend. She drove off somewhere leaving most of her stuff. She came back several hours later wanting to make up, but I insisted she get what she needs to live out of a suitcase a few days. I promised the rest of her stuff can stay until she finds a place for it. After she left I called her to come back and get her mother's wedding dress, because I would probably have a hard time getting laid that night with a wedding dress hanging in the living room. Thank you for watching Code M. Hit the like button, comment and subscribe to see more videos daily. I'll tell you all a little secret. When I get angry, I help recruit testers for my friend GLaDOS's little tech startup. The testing is so effective, she's almost always in need of new recruits.